Bring Her Back is the second film of the brothers who gave us Talk to Me a few years ago. And is their sophomore effort as good as their debut? Let's talk about it. Okay, last night was the Regal Mystery Monday, and as I suspected, Bring Her Back was the film that was the mystery movie. Talk to Me had also been the mystery movie, and I loved that film. I felt like that movie is so solid from start to finish that there's not much I could find wrong with it, if anything at all, off the top of my head. I'm not thinking of it. So I was really excited about Bring Her Back, and I only just found out about it, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I knew they were making another movie, but I thought it was going to be a Talk to Me sequel. It's not. This is completely different characters, completely different storyline. Everything. Yes, delving into supernatural like Talk to Me did, but completely different scenario. I'll go ahead and get it out in the open that I enjoyed this film, but I don't think it is as good as Talk to Me. I did see a lot of my fellow movie lovers just raving about this film on the different review websites like Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes and things like that. I think there's maybe one review right now on Critic List. I've got mine hidden until after the live stream I'm getting ready to go into in less than an hour with deleted scenes and maybe Paul from Off the Cover. I know there was at least one or two that couldn't join us today. So I'm going to get my thoughts out here. Maybe my viewpoint will change a bit after the live stream. I don't know. If that happens, I will update it in text when I'm editing this video. Something that I think these brothers excel at, and this was definitely the case in Talk to Me, is that they give us characters that have an interesting level of depth to them. Bring Her Back also has very strong elements of emotional depth to it with all three of the main characters. There's a character played by Sally Hawkins, and then there is a brother and sister, or stepbrother and stepsister, played by Billy Barrett. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, and Sora Wong. Barrett looks familiar to me, but I actually can't think of anything that he's been in that I've seen. Sora Wong, this is the first time I have ever seen her. She is an actual blind person or vision impaired, whatever the PC term is. Whatever. They even announced that they had an actor who, I can't remember the words that they used, but the brothers came on right before the movie started and basically told you what the film was about. I had avoided trailers specifically because I did not want to know what the film was about, and the brothers just gave it away. That actually pissed me off a little bit. I did not want to know this going into it. So yeah, there's that. Basically, the scenario is this stepbrother and stepsister, they become orphans because their father, or the boy's bio dad, dies. And he is the stepfather to the stepsister played by Sora. And you get the sense early on that these two step siblings, they have a great level of love for each other. He truly cares for his sister. He's protective of her because she's blind and people just don't really fully accept her, but he loves her very much. And when his father dies, they are not old enough to live on their own because he's not quite 18 yet. So they have to go live with a foster mother played by Sally Hawkins. Little by little, Sally reveals herself to be a bit off in different ways. There is another little boy there that she is fostering, and that child is very, very odd as the film goes on. And this is not a very long watch, maybe a little bit longer than Talk to Me. I think it clocks in at 1 hour and 39, so not a terribly long watch. But things take their time to kind of build up to the crescendo that happens in the final act. Some things that I appreciated about this film, in addition to the emotional depth that these characters had, and how even though Sally Hawkins' character, as weird as she was, there were aspects to her motivations that you could identify with on certain levels. Even though obviously she was taking things a bit too extreme, you'll find out if you watch it. But I also liked some of the technical ways that the brothers filmed some stuff. One example that just kind of stood out to me was the use of bokeh, if that's the right way to just say it, bokeh, bokeh, whatever. You guys know what it is. It's basically in photography, it's that very slight blur in the background. Well, sometimes it can be extreme, but using that technique to kind of represent the blind girl's eyesight or lack thereof, because she can only see shapes and light. So things go on around her that she cannot witness. And there is just at least one moment that I saw where they use bokeh to represent or to symbolize the way her eyesight was. I thought that was pretty interesting. In general, I did like the story, but I don't think it's as good as their first film for various reasons. One is that there were a couple of instances where there were what I felt like poor setups for certain events that happened. One example I'll give you is the boy, he's looking on his phone and he's saying things that he does not want the foster mother to see. She indicates that she wants to, she's interested to see, and he knows it. So then something happens that captures his attention. He gets up from where he was and goes to wherever, I can't even remember what it was. But generally, when you have your phone and you want your privacy, you're not going to leave it lying around for a person that has expressed interest in looking at this phone. You're not going to leave it lying around for them to pick up, which is what he does. Also, he's a kid. Kids never want to lay their phone down. I mean, well, he's almost 18. They don't want to lay their phone down. He puts his phone down on like the bed frame beside him or something to get up to go to whatever it was that got his attention. And of course, she looked like, to me, that was first hint of a little weakness in the writing when it came to setting up certain events that happened. There were other things that happened towards the end where there is an indication that you've got a character who is just completely off the chain. And why the heck would you then turn your back on this character to any degree at all? But of course, this happened so that other events could happen to continue on the stuff that was going on. I'm keeping it vague in case you guys want to check it out. We might go into spoilers in the live stream discussion, but these things bothered me a little bit because that wasn't really an issue in Talk to Me. And these issues are very often issues in movies as a whole, especially horror movies. Poor setups for events that happen. You got the plot needs to go a certain way, but coming up with a weak way to get you to this plot. Having characters behave in ways that they wouldn't realistically behave in. So that kind of aggravated me. There was also another moment where a character just seemed to have randomly decided to go off and investigate this particular place when why? He wasn't at this larger location to have any sort of interest in this other location over there, but because the plot had to have this happen, he just goes off and checks it out. And so that got under my skin, you guys. Another thing that bothered me a little about this movie was the level of gore and grossness factor that felt like it was thrown in there just for purposes of grossing you out. Just for ick factor, just to show, oh, look what we did in Talk to Me. We can do so much more than that in this movie. Talk to Me definitely had moments of ickiness and grossness, but it felt like it served a purpose to shock the viewer, and it didn't feel gratuitous to the point that it wore out its welcome. It just didn't feel gratuitous. In this movie, some of the stuff that happened felt gratuitous. Like they just amped it up just for the hell of it. And I felt like that could have been scaled back a lot, and it would have made, in my opinion, for a better movie. I'm not necessarily one that is super skeeved out by grossness. I mean, horror does happen to be one of my favorite genres, but I'm not the biggest fan of it when it goes what I feel is over the top with some of the stuff that they show. I kind of start to, I get desensitized to it, and then it just starts to annoy me. It's like, okay, you're just doing this just to gross people out, and I'm not, like, that doesn't work for me. So I had various issues with this film that I did not have with Talk to Me. I didn't walk away from it absolutely hating it, but I also didn't walk away from it fully loving it like I did their first movie. And that was a little disappointing. You know, I guess I can't say I'm super surprised because it is kind of hard to follow up something excellent like what I feel Talk to Me was with something that is as good as or even better. I wouldn't say this is a weak entry into their filmography. I'm definitely going to check out whatever else they show us in the future, but this feels like a notch down from their first one, and I can't help it. That's how I feel. I wish I didn't, but there you go. So, yeah, I think that's about all I'll say for now about Bring Her Back. Other notes that I took had to do with things that get a little bit too specific about plot, and I don't want to go there with you. So I'm going to draw this to a close, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.